I'm Nadine Tippy, and this is my story. I was born in Bristol, Tennessee. I have a brother who's 8 years older than me. We were a family until I was about 9, and then my parents got divorced. And Dad got the church out of the divorce, and Mom moved on to a different church. And there were a couple of girls in Dad's church that were about my age. With Mom's church, there were no children. I was it, literally it. So there was no youth programming there, and then still went to church that whole time until I grew up. I went to Carson Newman College right out of high school, and I would come home every other weekend or so, and I would visit. Dad's church was always the church I called my own. And then at the second half of my freshman year in college, I met my first husband, Shane, and we started dating, and as things progressed and we got engaged, he wasn't involved in church, and we talked to my pastor about conducting the ceremony when the time came. And as we started making wedding plans, he said, yes, no problem. I like to do so many counseling sessions. There are certain things that I insist have to be covered. So he just said, when you can come to Bristol, come to Bristol. We'll get together and do the counseling sessions, and then we'll make sure we have it all done in time for the ceremony. So one of the times we came to Bristol specifically for that, I called him up and he said something along the lines of, I don't have time for you. This family member just passed away. I've got to take care of the people of the church. And without saying it, he implied I was no longer a member of the church. And that was very hurtful and very disillusioning. And this was 5 weeks before our wedding. So we had to scramble. We found someone else to conduct the ceremony. So we were married for 8.5 years until he died of cancer. He fought it for 6.5 years. Everyone always asks what kind of cancer he had, and the name's about that long, but it was desmoplastic small round cell tumors. And it was a vicious battle. It was a pediatric cancer that originated in his abdomen. And then he would he never truly went into remission or anything like that. It would start to get better and he would be feeling good, and then he would go for a scan and it was in a new place on his body. So that was very difficult to do. Backing up a little bit to 2005 is when Lou came into our lives, the one you now know as my husband. Lou was a friend to both of us. He was active duty Army at the time, training soldiers going overseas. He helped Shane out a lot while I was, especially that last year and a half, when I was in basic training and advanced training, and then moved on to my duty station at Fort Stewart, which is right outside of Savannah, Georgia. So he would bring Shane over boxes of Samoa Girl Scout cookies. And that was about the only thing Shane was eating at that time. And that helped keep him alive for a little while longer. Still hadn't been back to church with any consistency. Joined the Army in 2008. Went to basic training at Fort Jackson. AIT, Advanced Individual Training, at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio. And then I was stationed at Fort Stewart, Georgia. By this point, Shane was never well enough he never came down to the base. So anytime I could, I would come home on leave and visit with him, spend time with him. Then he died June 1st of 2009. And my unit was due to deploy. We knew it was coming like the first of the year for 2010, but we actually deployed in December of 2009. That was very hard. So I was gone for the next year to Iraq, Baghdad to be more precise. came back at the end of 2010. By July of 2011, Lou had moved down to Fort Stewart with me, and we got married at the end of August. Very short courtship. My enlistment was up in February of 2012, and I asked him, I said, "Where do you want to go?" And he said, "Well, my best friend lives in Knoxville. That's where I was before. Do you mind moving there?" And I said, "No, that's fine." So we found a place and moved here to Knoxville. Bought a house around the corner, and we had our son LJ. He was born in 2013. LJ started Mother's Day out here in about 2015, and he loved it. And up until that point, I had not been in church with any amount of regularity. Every once in a while, I would go with a friend or with this person or that person, but nothing to be able to say I was in church. So with LJ doing Mother's Day out here, I realized then that I wanted to raise my child in church the way I had been raised in church. And that was kind of what brought me back to thinking about, okay, I want to go to a church. What church? Where? Because I had never attended any church in Knoxville. So, and the answer kind of seemed like a smack in the face, like a duh. Because he was already at the Mother's Day Out program here, and so it was like, well, surely some of the families who bring their kids attend church here, so maybe he'll know kids here. And I think I was talking to Carrie a little bit one day, and she's like, "Yeah, you can come and you can sit with us." And LJ and Abby were already buddies at that point, so we started coming with some regularity, and then more regular, and then started getting more involved. My thought behind this is there are a lot of people in a lot of different stages of life. And part of it is because I've gotten to know Linda very well over the last couple of years. And she and I have talked about this, so she knows that I've already lost one husband. So some of it is you're not alone. And it might come from the most unlikely source, where you're going to find that person that you're going to connect with who has been there and done that and got the t-shirt. That's been part of the experience for me, is letting some people know that I actually understand more of what they're going through than they may realize just because they don't know me. I've been through a lifetime of experiences before I ever had my child. Everyone's got a little bit different perspective, and that makes all the difference. Some of it is you can stray away and then come back. So there are multiple different reasons. You can stray away and then come back. Something will bring you back when the time is right. If you find yourself not in church for whatever reason, because a pastor made a mistake or did something that they thought was right that actually hurt you at the time, God will call you back when it's time. And I wanted LJ to be raised in a church the same way I had been. I wanted him to know that God loved him, and that there's more to this world than what the world would have you believe. But that's my story.